go. So welcome back to the Papa Pod, episode 4. This is actually the second time we've recorded it today. We've just done a podcast, but I didn't press record.
Never trust you into press record.
Rookie mistake. So how are we doing, boys?
All right, yeah, good, yeah. This seems to be coming around faster every week, don't you think?
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
It's been a week since the last one. I swear, as I get older, the weeks just seem to fly by. Like, when you're younger, you almost feel like you're almost kind of waiting to be able to go clubbing, waiting to go out with your mates,
Wishing your life away.
Yeah, you do. You wish your life away, and then as you get older now, all of a sudden, these weeks just seem to be flying past so fast. Like, it'll be Christmas soon.
I know, like 9 weeks, till Christmas.
9 weeks till Christmas, yeah. And it's quite scary, really, because as you get older, you value your time more. It seems to actually go a lot faster. But yeah. I
think having kids makes it go faster as well because they develop so quickly.
Yeah.
You notice the time going.
Do you think the busier you are, the faster time goes, or do you think the less busy you are, the faster time goes?
Definitely the busier.
The busier,
definitely.
Yeah. When you've got nothing to do, man, time just
it can drag on it. Yeah.
But also as well enjoying what you do as well.
Yeah.
Working in a factory, doing the same monotonous thing over and over again, 10 minutes can seem like an hour. Even though you're busy, it's not busy. But I think if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're actively and mentally busy.
Yeah.
Mate.
It's that state of flow, isn't it? There's that. Yeah, it is flow.
Flow state.
Yeah. Once you're in that, do you know what I mean? You can blink and the whole day is gone.
Yeah.
I suppose it's about what you achieve within that time frame as well. Like, sometimes I think, flipping heck, 30 years old now, but then I look and think, well, actually, in the last 10 years, I've got 4 kids, business, etc., and like,
smashing it,
so long as you've achieved a lot within the time that even though it feels like it's going fast, sometimes you look back and you think, well, actually, it's only been about 9 years since I left uni, and in that time, I've managed to do quite a lot.
And if you can stay on that trajectory for the next 30 years, compounding the achievements that you've made, then just think where you're going to be by the time you're 60, or even by the time you're 40.
You got to think. I know people. I'm sure you do, and you do as well. Who, when I left uni, are probably still in their mum's basements. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
definitely
playing
happens,
video games. So
yeah,
you've achieved a lot in those 9 years.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be Christmas before we know. Are we ready for Christmas? Is that something?
Are we ever ready for Christmas?
I'm never ready for Christmas, to be fair. I always look forward to Christmas. I look forward to the idea of it. I love the Christmas songs, but as it approaches, do you not think it's always stressful?
Well, it's like what you just said about time going so fast.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, I put the argument forward, right, and my missus thinks I'm a Scrooge for this, but I put the argument forward that Christmas comes around so quick, right? I'd almost like to do obviously acknowledge Christmas every year, but I've put the argument forward, shall we just do a big celebration of Christmas every 2 years?
Yeah.
So, 1 year we have a little celebration, maybe buy some little gifts, whatever, and then make a big thing about it the following year. Because I really do feel like,
I'm calling social services on you, mate.
It comes around so quick.
Imagine the kids though as well. Like when you're
They'll
younger,
still have a present and whatever, but
you get one
Where's
present.
Santa? Santa, where are you?
I don't know.
Next year, kids.
The thing is, like,
obviously, I'm not making a good. I'm not making a good argument for being prime minister here.
Yeah, for kids as well. Like that year seems to take so long to come.
It does, yeah.
Like you know how like Christmas, it can't come soon enough. Again, when you're younger, time seems to go so slow. But as you get older now, obviously, it seems to come around so quickly. Same with birthdays as well.
Yeah.
But I'm never ready for Christmas. Like every year, I'm in the same boat, and it's a week before, and I haven't. And really now, with the ease of kind of ordering things online, it should be a lot easier to get ready, shouldn't it? Really, for Christmas.
I think as you're an adult though, it's pressure and expectation. Like when you're a child, it's just pure enjoyment. You ain't got to think about anything. All you're thinking about is Christmas Day and those presents, and just the fun of the festive period. Whereas all I think now, I'm thinking, right, so I've got 9 weeks. Like I'm one of 6. That's all my siblings. I've got all my nieces and nephews. I've got my own kids. Presents are so expensive now as well. Do you know what I mean? There's all those issues with importing from China, so no more cheap plastic. Do you know what I mean? So there's just so many things that factor into Christmas. And I almost feel like, in my mind, the idea of Christmas is great, but the reality is actually quite stressful.
Well, it is, and it's become so commercialised now. It's not. I mean, personally, if there's a lot of people who are agnostic and atheist, why are you celebrating Christmas? it's a religious holiday, but it's not seen as it for that anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
it's not at
commercial,
all, is it?
and it feels like every year that goes on, it's becoming more and more commercial. And maybe I'm just getting more cynical as I get older. It just seems to be more and more. It's more about the presents and the spending and whatever.
100%.
Because actually, go on. Sorry.
No, well, I mean, the thing is, I'm not religious, but I do like celebrating Christmas. Like, it is just a nice, like, religion aside, it's nice to come together, and you've got the whole nostalgia behind it as well.
Yeah.
All the songs and getting together as a family, having dinner. Like, I love that part about it, but I think, like you say, too much emphasis on presents now, and what did they get us, and have we got them something? And sometimes you buy them just for the sake of saying, oh well, I've got them a gift, and that box is ticked off. Which
well, just going to that.
Yeah.
Do you know the whole like hierarchy of gifting presents originally was designed so that traditionally you never went up the generation.
Okay.
So the gifts always flowed down. So the grandparent would buy for their child, okay, and the grandchildren. Their child would buy for their children, and then obviously the children weren't expected to get anything, and that's how it was meant to be.
Right.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
But
I can
now,
live with that. I like
exactly.
that. That's a great idea.
But now it's like,
Oh no, I'm not.
everybody's got to buy for everybody, right? And each present cancels each one out. And then sometimes there's that competition of, well, I spent more on you, or you spent more on me, or whatever.
Yeah. And the thing is,
how many people fall out as well because he didn't get me anything for Christmas, or they didn't buy my kid anything for Christmas.
And the thing is, everybody's always in a different financial position. So a couple of years ago, I was in a position where I couldn't really afford to buy a lot because I was doing up another house, and we were kind of still getting the business going, and we were in a position at one point where we were struggling to just cover our bills because we had obviously a lot of bills to pay and whatever. But so, like, not everyone's in the position to get the same presents, but you've still got that kind of stress where, like, oh, I know this person's going to spend X amount of money, so I've got to basically match that. And a lot of these people are putting themselves under financial pressure every year just to be able to tick off the box and say, oh, well, I've got that person a present. It'd be nice actually to turn around and say, look, I can't afford any presents this year. Don't bother buying me any. But then you've always got, oh, well, I'll buy you one anyway. And then you feel obliged to get that one back. So there's never really that. So I think it would be better if we could actually just...
Mate, there's a lot of people
in some cases
who get themselves in a never-ending cycle of... So come Christmas time, come around December, they'll take out a loan, right? And they'll buy presents with that loan. It'll take them all year up until late November to pay that loan back.
Yeah.
Just to take
And then
another
what
one
do they
out.
do again? They take out another loan.
Yeah.
And it's just living up to this expectation that
But this
society...
hasn't happened by accident, has it?
No.
It's all been manufactured, and we've been conditioned by industry and these big companies to be this way, because obviously, I mean, just think of how much like the GDP comes from Christmas time, from Christmas sales. I think was it last year? Yeah, last year. I think they did see a dip in sales because of coronavirus, and some companies weren't able to recover from it. Some companies went under because, especially think about like restaurants and things like that. It's their busiest period.
It's a busy time period. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those companies will be high streets as well, because like your online companies would have probably done very well actually, because you couldn't go out and get presents, so everybody just went online. And obviously we've seen a shift towards more online buying over the last few years, and that's probably going to be set to continue to the point where I don't feel in a few years' time we're going to have that many high streets left. I think there'll be certain complexes, like it seems to be more like retail parks seem to be doing quite well at the moment, don't
definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's where people are heading, aren't they? Because, I mean, look, locally where we are, you've got these retail parks that everything's enclosed. Do you know what I mean? You've got your shops, you've got your restaurants, you've got your free parking. You're drawn towards that. Whereas, like, the high street, Wolverhampton High Street, prime example, it's dead, It's extortionate to pay what you've got to pay.
Because they've got to pay their overheads.
Exactly. You've got to pay for your parking and everything, and let's be honest, it's pretty dead anyway in the town.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive to actually go on the high street.
It's a shame really, because it was always nice to kind of go uptown. I say it was nice. When I think back, it was nice. Probably if we were to do it now, it's probably quite stressful. But you always think of going to the high street near Christmas. Everyone's out, hustle and bustle, grab a coffee.
Yeah.
It's that nice, lights are up, nostalgic feeling. But I feel like we're going to lose that over the coming years. But I do feel like we're going to transition into, we're still going to have these hubs, these town centres, but it's going to be a lot of living space as well, lots of apartments. And we're going to have a lot of cafes, bars, restaurants, like that kind of...
Charity shops.
Yeah,
Standard.
well, yeah, charity shops, or the odd kind of designer shop maybe, and you might get these kind of hubs of kind of like living quarters, and you're getting them a lot in London actually. One of my mates lived in one. It's quite nice, it is quite nice, and I think that is probably the future, and then we will have the retail parks where people go and park up, but a lot of it I think will just be online.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely. So anything that stood out this week in terms of current events? Been a bit of a quiet week.
It's been quiet, hasn't it? Yeah.
It's been quiet, but obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the MP that unfortunately got stabbed and then later died from that
Sir
terrorist
David
attack.
Ames, yeah.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate event.
Yeah.
That what's gone on there.
And there's a big conversation at the moment about, how safe are MPs and why are MPs sort of under so much...
They're talking about police protection for all MPs.
Yeah, under so much scrutiny, but, that sort of feeds into a more broader conversation of if the people were happy and the people were feeling fulfilled and looked after by their government, would MPs really need to be in fear for their life, and would they need, police protection?
Yeah.
Condolences to this MP's family, and in no way, shape or form am I saying that they deserve to be, put to death or whatever, but they can't, with how the whole coronavirus thing and the last sort of 12 months, Brexit and everything have been handled, you can't be surprised that people aren't happy.
Well, the thing is, like, you can't make everybody happy. You're always going to have decisions that make people less happy, more happy, but I feel like now it seems to be increasing as well. You haven't got people that are just not happy, you've got people that are extremely unhappy as well.
Yeah.
And that's fed up as well. Yeah. And you imagine a lot of these people. I mean, I don't actually know the ins and outs of what happened with that particular MP. Maybe you can tell us a bit more in a minute. But when you've spent like a large portion of the last year cooped up inside because you're not been allowed to go out because of COVID, and a lot of people probably lost their jobs over COVID, or whatever, you're going to get people that are probably clinically depressed and more likely to do psychotic things like go and murder. And these kind of cases, I mean, I know coronavirus has obviously taken the country by storm and, spread fast, whatever, but so has, domestic abuse, so is suicide.
Mental health problems.
Yeah, and all these things have kind of been as a bypart of all these kind of lockdown measures that have been taking place.
Yeah.
So then you kind of ask yourself, at what point is it kind of going too far in terms of trying to stem the spread of coronavirus?
But they've created a whole host of
other problems, which are set to continue, I think.
Yeah. But I think people are just fed up with the lockdown. They're now fed up with this silent, tax that's being put on us through all this inflation. Every single thing has gone up, and whenever you speak to anybody about, well, why? Oh, well, the two biggest things, isn't it? COVID and Brexit. But actually, I just think it's a way to, to cause inflation and just put everything up. And again, it's the little man who gets affected, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think what happened was the response to COVID, I think was a little bit extreme from the government, locking the place down and whatever. Obviously, they spent all this money on furlough and bounce back loans and all this relief. And, at the time, people were thinking, well, it's free money from the government. Look, nothing is free from the government. They are going to claw it back for you in some way. And we're now seeing it in terms of inflation. They're talking about putting up taxes and all that sort of stuff. So
people are losing their faith, aren't they, in politics in general? And I think that this is probably, I don't know the ins and outs around the attack and what the motive was behind it, but I
don't
can
think it's really been...
It hasn't really been discussed, has it? No.
I just think with the rise of the internet, there's a lot more information on certain things that the government officials are actually doing. I mean, there was like, when the whole COVID thing came, there were companies that was getting set up, and these governments were giving huge contracts to these companies that were literally
PPE?
For PPE.
Yeah.
And in some cases paying 800 quid. This is an article I read. It said that in some cases we're paying 800 quid for this PPE. And you think, well, did these government officials have any kind of interest in these companies? And I think in one case, Boris Johnson's dad had some sort of interest. I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact ins and outs of that.
ODX, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah. I don't really want to say because I don't know the
ins
full ins and outs, so I don't want to say.
You can bet that these government officials have got interest in a lot of these companies. It's the same with, like, you look at the smoking industry. Why is it that you've got cannabis and, you know, all these kind of things that have kind of been banned largely, and yet cannabis doesn't kill anybody, yet you've got cigarettes that kill hundreds of thousands of people every year, and yet they're not banned.
Yeah.
And you can only assume that there's lobbyists or that people in power have got some sort of interest in these companies.
And we can see that a lot more now because of the access to information we have, because of, you know, the World Wide Web. We can now see, you know, by doing a little bit of digging, oh, actually, that politician has shares in that company, etc.
Yeah.
Right now, now we know why you've, you know, pushed that through, or, you know, you're trying to force that agenda on us.
Well, talking about cannabis, are you still taking the CBD drops? Because that's sort of your back out, didn't it?
Yeah. So I had a slip disc, 13 years. 2 years ago, it just completely debilitated me, like, to the point where I was at a walking stick.
I remember, yeah.
I was on 24 ibuprofen a day, cocodamol, paracetamol, tramadol, amitriptyline.
What a cocktail.
I'm surprised I'm still here, to be honest. Gave myself a stomach ulcer, you know, all that. And after all that, one day someone said to me, look, try this CBD. They were taking it for their arm and their knee. It was my brother, actually. He says, try this CBD. I thought, what have I got to lose? Took it, and literally within about 3-4 weeks, I was 99% cured.
Amazing.
After all this other stuff, all it was doing was just masking the pain, but this seemed to have, you know, dealt with the problem. And 2 years I was incapacitated for, and this just solved it. So I can speak firsthand of the benefits of it. But the problem is that it's all in the guise of, oh, we care about your health. You know, CBD, it's untested, it's untreated, or we've got no real data on it, blah, blah, blah. When do they ever care about your health?
Nah, it's all
Do they care about your health when it comes to cigarettes or alcohol or gambling, right? Mental health and the you know, the poverty that it causes and the destruction that it causes. They don't care. They only care about your health when they can't find a way to make money from it.
Yeah.
You know, and luckily now they've found a way to be able to sort of regulate the CBD and the cannabis industry. It started in America and it's sort of spreading around the world now. But if they can't find a way to monetize it,
and that's why we're slowly seeing it being decriminalised and legalised.
Yeah.
And
we are, yeah. But
cannabis stopped going up last year.
But they've done a good job of still keeping it to the point where you have to buy it from dispensaries or you have to have a licence to sell it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they want to admit, actually, you know, there are some benefits
which isn't
to get
bad.
from this.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Right.
And I'll tell you why I don't think that's a bad idea is because, so if you go to a dispensary where they've got a licence, then obviously what they're selling is regulated and it's being checked. So you know that you're having cannabis.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the issue with buying cannabis or any drug off the street is it actually cannabis or is it laced with some sort of synthetic crack? Like I know a while ago, a lot of cannabis was being sprayed with synthetic spice, and that was causing all sort of you know,
I know
issues, etc.
Instances of it being glass being put in it to make it look like the THC crystals.
Exactly.
Okay,
so
I
that's the argument for,
that,
and this is why, you know, again with all drugs, you know, I think is it Spain has decriminalised all drugs.
Some I think Sweden have, or somewhere like that,
Right.
Amsterdam, somewhere, I don't know. But
Yeah. So because obviously, let's be honest, drugs have been around forever, and they're always
gonna
are
be
going to be
around.
around. You know, we're not going to stop people from taking drugs, but if you allow people to regulate it and allow certain people to dispense it, and, you know, as part of dispensing you have to have a license, etc., then you can safely know by getting that drug or this drug you are having, do you know what I mean, pure cannabis,
pure heroin,
pure heroin,
coke,
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Whereas a street drug, let's be honest, what percentage
what
are
you're
you
getting,
actually
exactly.
getting that is that
And
drug that you think that you're buying?
of course, and the thing is as well is that the drug itself is not the dangerous thing. It's the criminality of the drug.
Of course.
That's what causes the crime. It's, you know, it's the criminality of it. It's how, you know, these people have to go to the black market where they're being extorted, or they're having to pimp themselves out and things like that to get the drug. Whereas when you regulate it and they know they're getting it from a safe place at a fair price, can do it in a safe setting, we can monitor them. It does work out. It sounds counterintuitive, but if you think about it, it is better for society. And I don't think you can argue that there's been no more violence as a result of a drug than you get with alcohol.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know, how much domestic violence and weekend violence and that do we see from alcohol? But because it can't be produced on a mass scale by someone in their house, right? The government have been able to regulate it and make a tax from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say it, because I know in Spain that they've got now centres, right? So touching on what you were saying about safe places to take it. So in Spain, they've got these centres so that if you are, you know, kind of into your hardcore drugs such as heroin, that allow you to go into a centre, you're in a safe space, they'll give you a safe needle.
Yeah.
That allow you to take it.
Yeah.
Right. And all they ask for is they want to have a conversation with you either prior or after, right, once you're out of that induced state, about your addiction. And what they'll do is they're trying to, you know, if you want to do it, great, it's here. But also if you want to
help
overcome this addiction, which 99.9% of people want to overcome their addiction. Do you know what I mean? You talk to the person on the street who unfortunately is homeless because of their addiction. They regret that they've ever got themselves in the state, but the addiction has overtaken them. Do you know what I mean? They are no longer their identity.
And the thing is,
addiction.
In a lot of countries, they're actually criminalised because they don't really have anywhere they can go for help because they're effectively criminals, aren't they? Because they're taking illegal drugs.
Exactly.
So I suppose by what you're saying, by decriminalising it, you'd probably have a reduced amount of drug takers, or you could well do, because they'd have a lot more support, a lot more help. So what's your view on? Because some people believe that all drugs should just be completely decriminalised, and it would help get rid of kind of, you know, criminals and...
Yeah, I mean, I take a very libertarian stance on it in the sense that I believe if you want to do something with your body, as long as you're not harming anybody else in society, it's up to you. You know, if we can come up with a system where if somebody wants to do heroin, if somebody wants to do whatever, as long as they can do it in a safe environment and they're not going to harm anyone else. You know, it's different when you talk about like spice or methamphetamines that cause people to get violent. Yeah, but as long as people can do it in a safe and in controlled way, and they're not robbing people for it, and they're not attacking people or whatever, then go for it.
Yeah, and also, I think that, you know, drugs at times, I'm not saying this is in all cases, but can have healing effects. Can be used, you know, as a form of therapy. So there's an organisation called MAPS who are using MDMA, so pure MDMA, in a positive way, and they're helping a lot of those soldiers cure their PTSD, and they've got profound results as it stands. So again, in a controlled environment, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the right quantity, with the
I
right
was just
people
say, I'd
around
imagine
you.
the quantity
exactly,
they're using.
The dosage, that is key.
They
as
know
well.
the safe dose to use.
There you go. Do you know what I mean?
And that's where there needs to be a lot more research into these products that actually, you know, have been known to cause. Yeah, see, I'd want to live in a world where we actually start exploring these kind of avenues a lot more. Because, you know, you've got your MDMA, mushrooms. I've heard a lot of research into the effects of mushrooms being positive. Psilocybin, yeah. So, like, I think
Joe Rogan swears by it.
Yeah, he does, yeah. And I think that definitely people are kind of coming around, because before, again, it was just like, oh, mushrooms, no, they'll send you psychotic. But I think if we can research it and we can actually get the correct doses, and I think it can be used for good. And at the end of the day, like, cannabis, mushrooms, these are all kind of grown from the earth. They've been put there effectively, you know, from whether you believe in God or whatever. But that is part of the earth. And if you've got this plant that you can do so much with as well, and not just kind of like mentally what it can do for you, but also what it can be used for as a resource in terms of hemp, clothes, books, paper,
even like as building materials.
Yeah.
You know, Henry Ford built a car out of hemp,
and it grows like is it 10 times faster than trees or something?
Something, I mean,
so, you know, there's just so many good uses for it. So you have to ask yourself, why is this still something that is not allowed to kind of be researched more and be used more?
Yeah. I think just until the government can find something to, a way to monetize it. Not even monetize it, to make money from it, because you can come up with you can come up with a way to monetize something, but if they can't see a way that they're going to be able to, tax it efficiently or monitor how it's going to be grown or how it's going to be made, right, and put a tax on that, they're not gonna pass it, and this comes again to like why the free market is so important. Just shows, when the government were responsible for the PPE thing, right? Yeah. Because it's not their money, they haven't had to make that money, they haven't had to sweat for that money, it's not their money, then it's nothing to them to spend £800 on PPE, whereas when it's like you've made that money and you have to account for every penny, you're going to search for the best deal. And that's why I just think like when we look to the government to sort out those sorts of things.
But the thing is, like, whether it's the government or whether it's rich billionaires, or ultimately they're just interested in their back pocket. So
of course,
you're always going to live in this society. I think so long as you're aware of that, and people are becoming more aware of it, I think that's how we'll get progress.
Yeah, but also as well, it's billionaires and CEOs and whatever. They're honest about it. Being a capitalist, you're honest about, look, I'm in it to make money. Yeah. The difference is the government make it look like they're being altruistic. They make it look like we're doing this for you, we're doing this for whatever. But actually, they're just looking to make money.
So really, you can't win because everybody's just looking to make money, aren't they? Really. Yeah. So it's about having the education and being aware of yourself. But that's all very well and good. But at the end of the day, right now, taking magic mushrooms or taking MDMA, even though it could be beneficial for some people in whatever correct doses, and more research obviously needs to be done, we're not able to actually do that research because it's illegal. And that's where the problem is, I think.
Yeah. So we're not going to let you have it because we've got no research on it, but we're not going to let you do research because it's illegal.
Yeah. I think this is why the government are now in certain states, like if we look at America, are jumping on board, because it's almost like, right, there's a lot more publicity around cannabis and, the benefits that it can bring into your life. So you've got these certain states that have decriminalised it, got these legalised shops and they're able to dispense it. You're seeing those states, do you know what I mean? They're prospering financially. They're obviously giving loads back in tax. The government are absolutely loving it, do you know what I mean? Because they're now benefiting off it. Yeah. So it's almost like they're the experimental states. And that's why I think in the next, I don't know, maybe like 10 years, we'll probably see it decriminalised or legalised everywhere. Yeah. I think UK will definitely follow within the next 10 years. Yeah. Cannabis will be a legal
drug. You think so, yeah?
100%.
I think so, yeah, probably. Maybe a little bit longer, but yeah, I would agree with that. But I think the reason we're seeing like these sorts of things now is because, we are seeing more liberals, people who are liberal-minded, get involved with politics and government. And, and people often think like we're against liberals. The liberal mindset, I actually think is very altruistic, all right? But when you mix that with government, every liberal intention, every liberal policy that's put in place, the intentions are pure. Yeah. But you're always going to find somebody who will find a loophole with that, right? And this brings me to a story that I've seen this last couple of weeks. I think it was last week in America. The whole liberal agenda about trans rights and all that sort of stuff, and the whole, I think was it Title IX, where they basically said like, if you identify as a woman, you can enter a female bathroom. Okay, conservatives or people who are on the right came out and sort of made the argument of people are going to use this as a way to get into female bathrooms and assault them. And they were seen as mad and, that will never happen, don't be silly, blah, blah, blah. Well, last week, there was a dad at a school and he's basically, I can't remember the exact state it was in, we'll put it up now, but he was at a parent-teacher conference thing, you know, meeting. A few months ago, his daughter was actually raped in a school toilet by a lad who went in there in a skirt and said he identified as a female. Okay, you know, NSFW, but she was. Well, I'm not going to say, but it was very severe what happened to her. Okay, 14-year-old, I think she was. Now she reported it to the school, and obviously, you know, the dad reported it as well. Anyway, at this teacher conference last week, one of the parents there denied that it happened, and the school board denied that it happened, and basically said that there'd been no such report.
Right.
When obviously this dad had done the report. So what would you do in that instance?
Lock and loaded.
Well, yeah, but you know, you'd make a fuss. You'd make a fuss. So obviously, this dad acted up and you know and sort of said
Don't
whatever.
tell me they're getting arrested.
He got arrested, and they're now saying that
gosh.
he is part of the domestic terrorism threat from you know white males in America.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
So his daughter's been raped, and suddenly he's the
now
one.
the domestic terrorist
Oh my gosh.
for speaking up about it.
She's just trying to disrupt things, guys. She's just trying to disrupt things. Just continue on over there. Just continue on.
And
Because
this goes
we cannot upset this.
exactly, and this goes back to my point. Yes, you know, I'm all for the intention behind. Okay, we're all equal. If you identify as a woman, you can enter a bathroom and well, they call it bathroom, toilet that females use. But just like everything, when you put those in place, you've got a kind heart, so you just don't want trans people to feel left out. But there's going to be people, evil people out there with bad intentions who are going to use that as a loophole.
Of course,
you know, there's another thing that's been put in place in a few certain states in America where if you're caught in states that are particularly low income, if you're caught shoplifting, as long as the combined value of what you're shoplifting is under $950, I think it's $950, they won't prosecute.
Organized retail theft has become such a hot-button issue that it's now a point of focus in the upcoming gubernatorial recall election. Former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer spoke outside the shuttered Walgreens at Larkin and Bush in San Francisco, blasting the governor.
A governor who has supported the lessening of laws when it comes to stealing items under $950, lowering those consequences.
Okay?
Right, okay.
Which, you know, they're saying because there's some people who have to shoplift to feed their families, blah, 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 blah. Well, obviously,
Everyone's just going to
every criminal now,
Yeah.
there's videos, and we'll show them now, of people walking into Louis Vuitton, just taking a handbag that's £800, just walking into like a department store, emptying the perfume and the makeup sections, walking out with black sacks like it's Christmas.
They're exploiting it, aren't they?
Exploiting it.
You know what? I'd love to say the world's Disney, and we all would, wouldn't we? But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who are of the mindset where they are going to exploit these, you know, these kind liberal rules. You know what I mean? The intentions, yes, your intentions are good, but unfortunately, people are going to, and we can see obviously from the video clips, etc., that they are exploiting it.
Yeah.
I think the world is so complex. Like, it's very hard to make everybody happy. You can try your best to try and make everybody happy, but ultimately, when you make a decision, you've got to say, is more harm than good likely to come out of that decision? And there has to be a conversation where actually, you know, if trans people feel uncomfortable in getting changed in a female changing room when they identify as a male, is that correct? Sorry, I'm a bit confused. But
No, sorry, getting changed when they were biologically born male.
yeah,
They now identify as female, so
but they're still having to get changed in a male changing room.
but they're now allowed to get changed in
No,
a
but
female.
what I'm saying is, like, if they feel upset about them having to still get changed in a male changing room,
Yeah.
even though they identify as female,
Yeah.
is their feelings of, you know, feeling a little bit kind of upset or whatever about that, worse than
That girl gets
subjecting
raped.
our you know, daughters
to,
or whatever to potentially getting raped,
Yeah.
and these people using it as an excuse to get into. So you ask the question: has more harm than good come from that decision?
Are we trying to protect? Are we putting these things in place to protect the feelings, the subjective feelings of a small minority of people who identify as you know, transgender, over the mass majority of people who are actually at physical, physical threat, not threat of hurting your feelings, actually physical threat of harming. And I'd probably say 99.9% of transgender people who go in there don't go in there with the intention. They just want to live their life.
Of course.
But as long as there's that 0.1%, and my daughter could be that 0.1% who gets attacked,
you don't want to take that risk.
I'm sorry, but we're not taking that risk. And then there's also the other thing of, right, you're getting changed. My missus and my daughter are getting changed in a changing room, and they're looking across at a woman who's getting changed there, and she takes off her clothes, but she's got male body parts. How do you have that conversation with your child? It's already...
And then how does that affect your child as well?
How does that affect your child? So I agree, like, it must be hard for people who are transgender to have to get changed in... you know, if you feel like you're a female, but you're getting changed around males, I know that's uncomfortable. So can't we go down the route of we have, like, sort of a male, female, and then a unisex, or, you know, a sort of...
Or just a separate
wish
cubicles
you-
where they can have a bit more privacy if they feel, you know.
I think that's probably the better route to go down, but...
I agree,
It's so nuanced, and people are going to watch this and think that we're bigots or we're being insensitive to transgenders, and we really aren't. Like, I'm live and let live, but I'm also... You've got to go with what the established norms are, and the established norms are, you know, as much as they want to say gender doesn't exist and it's a construct, for thousands of years... We've identified as either male or female.
But also, I think what a lot of what is going on at the moment is all these agendas are kind of put in place to kind of cause, you know, we're arguing about that so that we're taking our minds off what's actually going on over there. It's almost like a scapegoat. Let's talk about this and let's put all our effort and argue over Twitter about this subject. Yet you've got, you know, people in Yemen getting used as slaves, and, you know, bombs getting dropped in certain areas, whatever, you know, and no one's really talking about that because they're too busy talking about this subject here. Yeah. So it comes to the point of, like...
That's true, yeah.
So you kind of have to ask yourself, what is the agenda here? Are people really kind of so bothered about this, or has the government created this as some sort of, like, agenda which we talk about? And the point I'm trying to make is, I feel like the majority of people actually would agree with what we've got to say. Yet the media have made it this big thing where they've put this legislation in place, not because people are banging down the doors of, you know, House of Parliament or, you know, the White House to have this legislation made. They've made it themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, and why has that legislation been made? Has it been made, you know, genuinely for good purpose, or is it just been made so that we sit around talking and saying, oh, well, this shouldn't be that or that?
I was going to say, I think there's a victim agenda being pushed at the moment.
Yeah.
And something you sent into the group the other day, did you see it about there's someone?
Oh yeah, I'm now a victim 2 times because I'm a POC, person of colour. I'm also left-handed.
Oh, okay, right.
So we're now victims. There's right-handed privilege now.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Okay.
Are you right-handed, bro?
I am, yeah.
You two righties?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
shit,
yeah,
it's
see,
going to
yeah,
pop
yeah.
off in a second.
Are you left-handed?
That I'm right-handed, bro.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, you don't know about my struggle, to be honest, so you can't really talk about it.
But again, I mean, who's really saying that? Who's actually saying all
No,
this?
but
I know.
Is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying
But
to
what's
make.
crazy is that this person, right, so in this image, it looks like she's in like a lecture hall.
Yeah.
She's got a PowerPoint in the background. She's obviously got an audience, and she's trying to say that I am a victim in society because I'm left-handed, and society is catered towards right-handed people.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is like that kind of is been put in the media to make us sit around and go, oh my gosh, and this. But who's really agreeing with that? No, like you go and ask 100 people on the street now and say, you know, do you believe that? You know, if left-handed people are, they're saying that.
Well, I think
it begs the question: why are people talking about some of these subjects that have been spoken about so much when there's so many other things going on in this world which we should be speaking about, and yet no one even.
No, I agree. My only fear is that So someone speaks about it, puts it out there. So now, you know, it's now in an open space, right? And suddenly, because it's out there and someone's highlighted that this world, do you know what I mean, doesn't cater for left-handed people, suddenly we now have to start tiptoeing around left-handed people, making sure that we cater for left-handed people. So slowly but surely there's that snowball effect, and suddenly you've got corporations saying, hey, we're bringing out, you know, an exclusive range of cups for left-handed people. They're the exact same, but they're marketed towards these left-handed victims.
Well, they're just creating a society where you're scared to say anything about anything in case you offend someone.
Exactly.
And all logic starts to go out the window, because you don't talk about logic anymore. You talk about, oh, well, if I say that, it might offend this section of society. When really, you need to actually start thinking about these things logically.
And we're already there. We're already there, aren't we? You hesitate before you say anything now.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is cancel culture.
100%.
You know, they're creating this myriad of, it's like a minefield of politically correct terms that you can and you can't say, so that, and you know, bringing it back to Donald Trump, it all started with Donald Trump really, because we create these minefields so that if you say something that we deem politically incorrect, we can now cancel you. We don't have to have any, you don't have to break any laws or whatever, but you say the wrong thing, we'll take you off Twitter, we'll take you off YouTube, we'll take you off Facebook, we won't give you airtime because you didn't say the politically correct thing. So it's almost like, you know, anybody who strays away from the mainstream narrative, because there's so many rules that are now being put in place, they can easily eliminate any counterpart to their argument, because technically they're not correct, so they're a bigot or a racist or a fascist or whatever. And
that's quite dangerous, because
it
kind of stems discussion, it stops discussion, doesn't it? Because if you're not allowed to talk about a subject and even have an opposite opinion to something that's being pushed out by the mainstream media, all of a sudden you're not having discussion in a democracy where everybody comes to a conclusion and says, oh, well, actually, the majority agree with this. It's, oh, well, the mainstream are going to push this out there, and you either agree to it, we agree to what you want to push out there, or we cancel you, or we, you know, stop you from posting about it, and we just completely eliminate it.
And what does that create, though? Because we spoke about this before.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Right? It creates, when you suddenly say to somebody, right, you cannot speak about this in mainstream, what you're saying is wrong, okay? Then that person's views don't change, right? They don't stop, you don't suddenly change the way they think by saying they can't speak about it. That person goes underground, and they start attracting other like-minded people. And because there's no one there to counteract their argument, because you've stifled their speech, right? It breeds and it festers underground where the mainstream can't see it, and that's where you start getting extremism.
Yeah, of course.
That's how the birth of Nazism started. That's how the birth of the BNP, the birth of radical Islam, everything radical that has ever happened, you know, every movement radical that's ever happened, the Cuban Revolution, everything, it all started with an underground movement that we're having these clandestine meetings and clandestine conversations because mainstream won't allow them to speak.
And this is why we need to hold on to freedom of speech and allow these discussions to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, universities, as we speak, do you know what I mean? Traditionally, these are supposed to be institutions that allow discussions, despite how heavy or hard-hitting the discussions can be. You should allow it and, you know, hear both sides of the argument. But now they've got their agenda, they're pushing it, which again is driving it underground, creating these extremist groups. So when they surface, do you know what I mean? They've been indoctrinated into this one mindset. They're not allowing anything else to kind of be heard, and then they're going ahead with their agenda. And unfortunately, sometimes this can lead to, you know, extreme terrorist attacks or whatever, just to kind of get their view.
Of course, yeah. But what I'm making the point is, no matter how extreme your views are, as long as you're not calling for direct physical violence on somebody, whereas I'm not saying, I want you to go and kill that person or I want you to go and rape that person. I think we need to have a society where no matter how bad your views are, how disgusting they are, there needs to be a place where you can discuss them so that we can, like you just said, stifle any of these underground factions that start, because what happens is then it festers and it festers, and then by the time it actually rises to the surface, you can't control it.
It's too late.
You're too late. Yeah, you're too late.
Yeah.
Woo!
God.
It's quite heavy to end the podcast with, boys.
Yeah, well...
Has everyone got a joke to keep it a little bit lighthearted? not goose there.
So, next week, obviously, we're not going to... we're going to maybe not be able to do one next week because it is half term, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We'll try.
We'll see what we can do. We'll try and get
out.
some content out there for you guys because we know that you're
I mean, we did actually record 2 podcasts before this one and someone didn't click record today.
Yeah. So
we would have had one for you, but...
I left a minute ago.
So there might not be one next week. We're going to try our best to get something out to you next week.
Yeah, even if we do a vlog or something. Just some sort of content.
Yeah,
cool.
But, you know, as we always say, keep sharing, keep liking, keep commenting. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed and is commenting and liking so far. You know, and like in the previous weeks, you know, we want you guys to come to these podcasts with an open mind because it's not going to be a vanilla podcast. We're not going to just be talking about airy-fairy stuff. We want to have meaningful conversations about, you know, things that actually matter.
Yeah.
So, if there is anything that you disagree with in this podcast, comment below. If there's anything that you agree with, comment below. If there's anything that you particularly want our point of view on, comment below.
We want to hear from you guys. We do.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Sweet.
Until next week.
Cheers, lads.